Hey, my name is Kaleb Deatherage, and I played the part of Ryan in Memory Lane.
And my name is Kelsey Brown, and I played Victoria.
You're smiling.
I know.
No, remember the exercise thing? That's what I thought of. Yeah. Because that was the most detailed like blocking I had ever been through, I think. Did you, like, what was that like for you?
Yeah, like our first rehearsal. Our first.
Yeah, just like the whole first day of just going through it.
I think it was like the day before we actually filmed it. It was a lot of fun, and it was also like a lot at the same time because it was the first time we met in person. I really valued the rehearsal though, because at least for me, I felt so much more comfortable with you after. Because
Yeah.
like if you remember, it was like we just introduced ourselves, and then all of a sudden we were like staring into each other.
It was immediately like as awkward as it could be.
Yeah, which made it like so much better because obviously our characters have a lot of history, so it was nice.
And I got rid of all the weirdness right in the beginning.
Yeah,
Which kind of
100%.
works.
What other kind of exercises did we do? Was it just that one? I thought we talked a lot.
We did
So I
talk a
know
lot.
there
We
was a
did
lot.
we did the like you're smiling, you're
Yes,
blinking,
the
you're smiling,
repetition.
and it's like, yes, I'm smiling. You're laughing. Yes, I'm laughing.
Uh-huh.
Um, we did that one, which that one's a Meisner technique, right?
Yes.
What's the point of that one? I watched a video on it, but it's been a minute.
The point of it is to be completely aware of your scene partner. So
Okay.
it's like my entire focus is on you. Therefore, you do something I notice. So it's like if you slightly smile, oh, I automatically yeah.
Oh, you know what? I held on to I had the itinerary that he'd printed out at one point. I think it's in my bag somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I have that on me though.
Nick allowed time for us to get to know each other as like people, which was nice. Obviously because we were jumping into this like we're
Bless you.
exes that had like a long relationship and things like that. So I know we did a lot of talking about like, oh, who's our favorite actors? What's our favorite
Oh
movies?
yeah, we did
Yeah.
talk about that. Yeah, we did do some like icebreaker things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know I got time where I sat down with Nick. I don't remember if it was a call or not, but we like just went through the script and we talked
Oh
about
yeah.
things too. So that was like before we even hit the ground running, and that was super useful because it was weird. I didn't realize doing that where I got a chance to actually sit down and literally like break it down into scenes and then write about it and talk about it was very
Mm-hmm.
like I think that's something I'm going to ask for in the future for future projects, especially if I'm like the lead. Obviously, I'm a supporting character. They're like, yeah, whatever, it's fine, just show up. But like, if you're playing the lead character, being able to totally break down the scenes was super, super useful and handy. And I didn't realize how much I appreciated that until I actually got to do it for this film.
I think we both separately had that meeting with Nick, and I totally agree with what you said. Because for me, I feel like a lot of times I have like a lot going on in my head. So being able to like verbally say
Yeah.
what I'm thinking as my character helps a lot. So I value that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we went through it a little bit, but also I do think something I enjoyed a lot that I don't know if Nick did purposely, but if Nick did, it was very smart. Where it's like I didn't fully know your fantasy or your wants.
Background.
Yeah, background
Okay.
in your character, and I only kind of knew mine, which I think helps because that's like real life.
That is kind of realistic. Yeah. You don't
Yeah.
either purposely or just for lack of time or whatever it was. But yeah, I don't think I knew the extent to what Victoria was trying to get out of that situation. I think
Yeah.
it was because it's more focused on getting me comfortable with my character, not
Uh-huh.
so much. And also, here's with this and that because we'll get there, we'll play with that, and we'll see how it actually feels. But yeah, once we actually got to set, there was a lot more like, oh wow, so this is really what she's trying to get out of this.
Uh-huh.
Hi.
Hello, hello. How you doing?
Pretty good. Set this up a little better.
So essentially, I just like to do these kind of one-on-ones just to kind of talk about the character, talk about the film, answer any questions that you may have, and just kind of get into things a little bit, just the two of us before we have our blocking session with you, me, and Caleb.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't strike me as like he's oblivious, but not in the sense that he doesn't care It really just seems like his focus is 100% on the music all the time. So he just misses details that would allude to certain things. And then even then, there's the back and forth of him trying to kind of not be an asshole. He's still here. Like, I'm not really trying to fucking like hurt you. I just, like, I don't want to be here right now. This is like his big wound. It's like, I don't even want to fucking deal with that. I don't want to think about that. Nope.
Yeah, and even that fight moment, it's really just about that frustration as opposed to like anger. But it kind of shows the difference in how they perceive this kind of reunion here, where his reaction is, I don't want to feel that pain again. I am going to leave. Whereas she sees it as a chance to seek forgiveness for him. The way I kind of see it is her need as a character is that she needs to really forgive herself. But her want in this moment, as soon as she sees Ryan, is that's the person that I have some unresolved stuff with. If I can get him to forgive me, maybe I can get enough peace of mind that I can actually go to sleep. I think that is represented kind of interestingly in that head collide moment. It's kind of almost a metaphor for how each of them sees the breakup. Their head collides, and she at first kind of laughs it off, but then she realized, oh man, I hurt him. Whereas his reaction to the head hit is immediately, no, I'm fine, and then hides the pain.
Oh my God. That's so cool. I didn't even think of that.
And there's two sides of this. I don't think the film should give a clear answer to this, but I almost think the audience should feel like, oh, it's really both of their faults. Or the other flip side of that is neither of them had any fault in the relationship. They're just two different people who aren't meant to be together. So we're going to use a different one for the film, but just to show you, this is the actual blue crown that she gave me in real life.
Oh.
It was not something I made up for the film. It's an actual thing. And even just like in the script, probably can't read it, there's writing on the inside that matches that last line that you see in the film.
Oh, wow.
What roped you in when you first got the scripts? Like, what about it? What about the writing? What about the script? What about the characters? Like, roped you in?
Yeah. At least for me, I love how realistic it is. And something about this story, it's gonna sound weird, but like I think it's just such a beautifully heartbreaking story, but it's also heartwarming, which is weird. And I like that because I mean, in life, it's never one or the other. There's ups and downs. So that's definitely what drew me to it. As soon as I heard the plot, like even before the auditions, I was like, oh, wow, that sounds like beautifully sad. But yeah, what about you?
Well, there's a couple of reasons that wrote me into the film. One, because I worked with Nick so much in the past, so I was excited to be on another Nick project, and I knew it was going to be good. It is kind of like what you said, that it wasn't over the top. I liked that. I feel like college films, a lot of the times, they do something kind of like wacky and goofy, and they don't have the budget to do it, so it's just kind of esoteric and abstract. Or you do your very standard college film of like, I don't know, man, the world is so big out there, and I don't know how I fit into it. Or I don't know who I am, man. Like, I don't know what's going on. It didn't like hit you on the head with it, and it wasn't super crazy. We didn't do drugs. We didn't get in a car accident, and then you die, and then I'm mourning your loss. Like, it didn't try to be more than just a slice of life. It was literally just a segment of time in which we were both about to kind of go through a critical change. And that stuff kind of happens. Like, I've had moments where you bump into people from your past, and it's like, that was a weird time for this to happen, but it ends up being like a good thing, and it works out. I think that's what made it easy to, I'm assuming, for audiences connect to, because obviously you and I are connected to it in a different way, but I'm assuming for people that watched it, because you could see that. You could see that old relationship you had where you both weren't quite in it, but you weren't quite out of it, and it kind of fell apart, and neither one really knows, especially in that high school age, shit just happens, and you're like, hey, what did happen? I was like crazy for you, or like, what happened? Like, how did this happen? So the detail was in like the little everyday things that we all have, that weird connection to the crown. Like, I have notes from old girlfriends from high school and stuff, and it's not like I'm like crying at night, but just open it every now and then, reread it. It's like, yeah, I remember that. I remember being 14. I remember freshman year. It's those kinds of weird little things. And that
it's
part
a
was
story I feel like a lot of people can connect to.
one thing that made me like more excited for it, honestly, was when we were doing like the auditions, we were like rolling with multiple people. One of them was like pretty good, and then one of them was like, I was like kind of like, I wasn't feeling it. But honestly, when we had our audition, I was like, I really hope she gets it, because that was like a lot of chemistry. Like that was easy. That was super easy.
I was just gonna ask you what the process was like, the audition process.
Did you audition with a lot of Ryans?
Yeah, well, I know it was like the first round was reading with nobody.
Oh, okay.
And then the second round was the chemistry reads. So I think I read, if I recall, I think I read with 3 Ryans. I feel like that's correct. But I totally agree. It was like as soon as I met you, like we talked because Nick allowed us a couple minutes to just
Yeah, that's right.
And once we started talking, I just feel like we bounced off each other really, really well. And if I recall, did you play an instrument in high school? What was it? Or at some point?
Yeah. We were now I feel bad. Did you play an instrument? Did I forget?
Yeah, it's okay. I won't be too hurt. But you played did you play the baritone? Whatever you
Yeah.
played. Yes. Okay.
You weren't low brass. Were you low brass too?
I was a tuba player.
Tuba.
But I remember as soon as we met and like we said that, and like I just felt like we had like a really
band kids.
we were band kids. But like no, I do think just finding that connection, it made it like, and then going into the reading, I felt like we had like good chemistry.
I think honestly for that last one, because I had those other 2 to go through, then I had with you, and I was like, I don't even remember like looking at the script as much. Like I was just like, I looked at it here and there to refer back to, but then I was just like talking, and I was like waiting to see what you were gonna do with it, and then what I could do with it next. And it was easy. I really don't know what to say other than it was easy. And it was like I literally walked away from that. I almost wanted to text Nick or something and be like, hey, like if I have any input, you should give it to her, because that was easy. But mostly I walked away and was like, God, I really hope she gets it, because that would make this film like it's just gonna make it so much better, easier to act out. So now I'm curious, how was it on your end? So was it like
the audition process?
I don't know. Yeah, did you have like a similar time of things?
Similar to you, I saw it on Instagram actually, because I already was friends with Nick at this point, and I saw he was promoting his Capstone film, and I reached out to him because at the time I was running the NEU theater department's social medias, and I think I remember you talking about that. Yeah, I'm a big advocate for the film and theater department to like merge together and help each other out. So I reached out to him and I was like, hey, like send us your stuff and we'll promote it. And then like while I was promoting it, I was like, dang, this script sounds really good, and the story is really good. And I also just adore Nick. So it's like, I kind of want to audition. So then my audition was on Zoom. I know we could have filmed it. I don't know if you did a Zoom or film one first. And then it was the chemistry.
I actually don't know.
But yeah,
I think I might. I'd have to ask Nick. I honestly don't know. I don't remember. I forget. Honestly, once I get the gig, I'm like, okay, that's all gone. Now I'm in the thing.
You're like, black out.
Yeah, that part's gone.
So the first thing we're going to do is speed dating, essentially. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each of you kind of ask the other person a question, that person will answer, and then send another question to the other person. Yeah. Caleb, I'll let you introduce yourself first.
Sure. Hey, my name's Kaleb Deatherage. I went to, that sounds like a slate.
Well, I'm Kelsey. I'm currently at NAU. I study theater.
And then we get to the I'm sorry and don't you want it to be okay. And that's really the stuff that starts getting to Ryan, because his thing throughout this is he just wants an answer. At first he starts trying to just reason with Victoria. But then when she mentions that line, I didn't want to hurt you, well, ironically, that did hurt him, because it just kind of shows that Victoria didn't have any awareness for how her actions were affecting him.
I can't communicate? Okay, well, let me communicate. You weren't happy anymore.
Give me a break.
No, you weren't. Okay, and I was terrified that all my shit had finally gotten to you and that you just see me as... I just didn't want to lose the person who always stuck around.
So I know you said you haven't really taken acting classes, but like, how did you get into acting?
My buddy Bo was a graphic designer, and he was taking some intro class for the media productions, like film side of things. And it was like jokingly asked me at work one day, it's like, hey, you want to be in a movie? And I was like, sure. And he was like, we need an actor, so do you actually want to be in it? And I'm like, that actually sounds fun. Yeah. So I went and I did it. So there's like no notes, so I kind of just did my best, whatever. And it was still fun. I still had a good time. And then there was like one scene where they like were having a hard time like getting the point across or the emotion out of me, and they're like, just isn't, it's not working. So so here, let me try something. And then so I did it. I basically just like did it more like erratically and more like what's going on, like more just like frustrated. And they were like, oh my god, they were like, that was so good. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But basically, in a nutshell, or that sounds weird. Basically, it was a lot. It was like a lot of support. I just got like a lot of positive support from it, and it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So I kind of just walked away from the whole thing being like, I mean, damn, they liked it that much, and I didn't even know what I was doing, and I didn't even really think about it, and I had a lot of fun. What about you? How did you get into it?
I actually, before I got into acting, I wanted to be a professional tuba player. So, yeah.
It's not too late.
As you can tell, I've always loved professions that's guaranteed to make you like a lot of money. But I got into acting, I would say probably seriously my sophomore year of high school. My sister did theater when she was in high school, and I was like obsessed with my sister. So I was like, I'm gonna do theater. But the issue was it stuck. So it's like once I joined theater, I was like, oh my God, like, no, this is my passion. So then I got really serious about it in high school, and then I came to NAU and I studied theater. And then right before my senior year of college, I have a Backstage account, and I applied and auditioned for the short film in Georgia, and I got it. And then I went and I filmed it, and I was like, holy crap, film is kind of incredible. And theater will always have like a major part of my heart, and I never won't do theater. But the reason why I'm pursuing film is just because there's something about the simplicity and realism of film that just like captivates me.
Because again, I think when they were together, she could get him to kind of have those fun, dorky conversations. Because those were the conversations that she was willing and able to have without risking being vulnerable. So just naturally for them to communicate, it was a lot of that kind. So they were willing to kind of have more fun banter. And going back to that idea of like having a hard time being really vulnerable and talking about the kind of unspeakables or the undiscussables. I think there's actually kind of an interesting one here, and kind of you'll see in some of these moments to where, yes, she's the one initiating a lot of this by asking the questions, but like when she asks, like, oh, or when she says, "Oh yeah, I was with my mom in North Carolina," if Ryan had turned that around and said, "Oh yeah, how's your mom?" she probably would have just said, "Fine," and then asked another question.
Yeah.
It's not one of those things to where she would want to get into it. She'd rather ask those questions to him than answer them herself.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the 1.5 year thing is true.
Really?
Yes.
Although,
in my defense, it was a much more mutual scheduling conflict than it was in this script. It was more so that our schedules couldn't align as opposed to the one person not being able to make the time. But yes,
right,
it did really take 1.5 years after me asking. Yeah. He looks back at it with the rose tinted glasses of like, it was amazing. Why can't we get back to that? Whereas she was much more aware of the fact of like, it wasn't all good. There was some good, wasn't all good.
It's a lot of mind work that I do. Like once I get a character. So like for Victoria, it was kind of a lot of fleshing out exactly specifically her background. And just like forming a real person, I guess. But like really crafting that relationship she had with you, Ryan, and how she experienced it. And then also how one, how she experienced it, and two, how she thought about it, because I feel like those are sometimes two different things. And also, I'm sure just sometimes like thinking about things too much, you start to like overthink it sometimes. So I tried to explore her fantasies with like how she sees her life going. Her relationship with her parents, I felt, was very important to just creating her and her storyline, because obviously it impacts your relationships in general. So yeah, for me, it was a lot of mind work. But what about you?
Yeah, that's interesting because I feel like if I do it in my head, I just lose track of the pathway. And then before you know it, I'm like humming a song again. And I was like, no, the whole point was this. I was going to do this while I was taking this walk. So it's hard for me to like stay on track and stay focused. With paper, it's like I can write, okay, how does he feel about himself? How does he think other people think of him? What does he think about the way other people think of him? What does he think about that? What does he want to do with this? And then it's like, then I can look through like, yeah, I think I did that. I feel like I got that. I feel like I got that. Okay. Things got interesting for me with rationalizing the two characters' perspectives on the situation. Everybody rationalizes what they do to themselves, and everybody goes to bed thinking like, I got my problems, but I'm a decent guy. I'm a decent gal. Neither one really did anything like horrible. It was like a weird combination of drifting apart with just discovering your lives were going to go two different paths.
What was your favorite like acting moment with me?
Honestly, that audition was one of those moments because it was so just immediately like, oh man, if she gets it, this would be really good. Like that was immediately like I felt really good about the short. I was like, man, if she gets this is going to be solid. Because there would be times the times where I like walk past you and I look back at you, whatever. There are times that I like look at you, and I'm like, oh my God, she's like gonna cry. And so it was like really interesting being like, how are you? Because like, I feel like I'm getting into it, but you look like you're there. I was like, how are you getting so into it? And you're talking like, oh, I don't know. I just follow the thought process and I get there. And I'm like, that sounds hard. That sounds really hard. I guess I can see like how you're saying like the mental work goes into it. I can see where all the mental work begins. You were really like, you were there. And I don't know. I thought that was really impressive. That was cool. The park bench scene was really done well. And then everything you gave me, I feel like I could give you back more. And then it was just like a nice give and take of energy that worked really well.
I love the final scene. I think we filmed it on our final day where I dropped you off. I had a lot of fun with you in that one because first of all, I was driving Nick's car, which made me incredibly anxious because I was like, oh my God, so much responsibility. But we had to come up with a reason why we were laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we were just
like sharing like the stupidest
stories. Yeah.
So I really, really loved it because when I saw the film, like in the film festival, I was like, oh my God, you can tell that's just like so genuine because it was.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes like whenever I think about memory lane, I just think about like, because I'm pretty sure the thing that would like I'm gonna laugh even before I say it, make us laugh was Gatorade because of a story you told me. You don't even remember. It was yours.
What story?
What's the
Gatorade.
Okay, I need to pull myself together. It was the going to the food hall and then
Okay, I guess it was a good story. Damn.
not even that like fantastic. I just find it so funny where you would have fell off.
Oh, was it when I filled my water bottles? I'd like just Jack Gatorade? Yeah, yeah. So I would
fill up. You tell it because I can't even fucking do it.
So my freshman year NAU or so, when I would go to the dining hall, the Union hot spot or whatever it was called, I would bring a water bottle and I put it in my backpack like a big Nalgene. And what I would do is I'd eat my food and then I'd sneak. I'd go At first, it started where I would like over the course of my whole meal, I'd go and get Gatorade and sip on it and then dump it into my Nalgene. And then, oh, I'm gonna get more. And I'd like slowly sneak it. But then I started getting lazy with it. So I'd bring my food back to my plate. And then I'd go and get 4 cups of Gatorade and then bring it back and then dump it in my Nalgene because I didn't want to, I didn't want to be completely obvious and just fill my Nalgene full of Gatorade. I didn't realize.
You said it was like you thought it'd be too suspicious if like you got your water bottle, but like bringing 4 cups full of Gatorade like isn't suspicious at all.
Hey, look, before I just want to say that I want you to be happy. That's all I ever wanted.
Take care of yourself, Ryan.
You too.
Yeah. So what was your greatest challenge with this role?
Oh man. Thought keeping up with you in scenes sometimes is hard. I think this is more of like a personal thing. I don't know if it's necessarily like specific to the film, but I really do have a hard time when there's no one to bounce things off of. Like when I have other people around me to feed me energy and then take it in as well, I feel like I do a pretty good job of rolling with that and making it roll and work. But on my own, I really struggle with, I don't know, making the scene my own maybe. So a lot of the scenes where I was like cleaning up the apartment and I like reminisce about the crown, I think I don't display as much emotion when I'm on my own. I feel like I get too much in my head, and it's not, I'm not like, wow, I can't believe it. It's been so long and it makes me so sad to see this crown. Like I'm not like vocalizing my thoughts. So I'm just describing acting now, but I have to like do all of that with my body and my facial actions. And I feel like I don't do as well with that when I don't have another person there to bounce off of. Did you have any problems at all? I felt like you were smooth sailing.
Stop. No. Yeah, it's funny because I thought the same thing with you. In the park bench scene, just getting to that level sometimes. Because just with film in general, there's like multiple takes obviously, and it's like obviously from one line to like a different line. So it wasn't like we were able to smoothly fully do the scene completely sometimes. So I think sometimes I felt myself struggle with like getting to those stakes. And I felt myself a little out of it. Well, and also another challenge was justifying some things, just because sometimes I'm like, oh, I would not do something like that that she does. But then I just need to justify it and be like, okay, but what would make me do something like that?
A real quick interjection on that. Like the whole thing where it's like Ryan's like, remember my it was your family's event or birthday or Christmas or whatever it is, and you're like, and I'm like, what? And you're like, you can't, or like you weren't even there, you worked the whole time. Because like in my head, I'm like, I wouldn't do that, that was a part that was hard for me to like, I wouldn't do that. Like I could see myself, or if it's just work, I mean, screw work. Who cares? Like, I could just work for anything.
I think that would have been my greatest challenge, just because like, and it had to do with the way we decided she ended things, because it doesn't really flesh out exactly word for word how their relationship ended. But I know I talked to Nick about it, and I'm pretty sure you were in that conversation with how it ended and why it's so messed up between us. And I was like, damn, like that was a shitty thing to do.
But it's funny that you're like that's so bad and so shitty, because like on the other side of it at the same time, it's like you were doing that because Ryan was gone anyway. He was working so much. It's like, what are you ghosting? He's not there anyway.
I think that's like back to like why I love this story so much, is because like they're both flawed individuals.
I guess that's like the beauty of the nuance they're people.
And they're also young. That's another thing. It's like these people are young. I can't remember if we decided their exact age, but it's not like I
think the relationship was high school going into young adulthood, and then the time we were at now was like almost post college. I assume it had been like a good handful of years or so.
I think Nick is a fantastic director, and like I really, really hope I get to work with him again. Like we said kind of at the beginning of our conversation, that talk, the Zoom talk I had just about Victoria and about the story and her life was very influential to me. And I also think that's very important because sometimes directors and actors have different views on a moment or a character. So I think that's very important to have to like set up the expectations and to also like argue a little bit if you have some differences. Because and I think that's something Nick does great is like he listens to what you think, because I do think there's a lot of directors out there that's like, no, it's my way.
Yeah. The idea of like that beforehand, just like let's go through the actors, the leads, let's break down, and we did it like scene by scene. It doesn't sound like something super convoluted or crazy to like set up, but I mean, once you're in the middle of that project every single day, it's like you're busy. It's hard to make time for something like that. But I think it for me, and it sounds like for you too, it went a long way, because I mean, for one thing, I've gone into other characters where I was like, okay, I need to be this and to be this, and I like come up with a trait. Come up with, okay, this is how I'm going to be in this situation to make my character likable or to make him this. And then I show up, I do that, and they're like, don't do that so much. It's like, oh, well, I had this idea. It's like, oh, no, we don't want that. That's a hard no. And I'm like, also, we're about to shoot. So it's like, okay, so in about 6 seconds, I have to completely come up with a new way to do it in like 3 seconds. So, which, that's part of the job. But if I had that conversation beforehand, that could have saved me some time, and I could have dug into it more. I could have actually developed it more. That's also it. He didn't just like go, so I just want to take a moment. Do you have any questions? He just started talking. He started explaining it. Cause like, I do, but I don't. Cause like everything's a question. It's like I have ideas that I can try, and we just bounce ideas off each other. And the other thing that made it so interesting too is because it was like, based on his history, it was great because he could tell you what he wrote and then how that related to what really happened. And then where he was at, where the characters are at, and then bring it back to me and what I think about that and where I'm at. And that was great, tying it all together and then being able to weave all those ideas and take all the notes. I got like 3 pages of notes from that guy. I always love it's cute. He always like, it's not my movie, it's our movie. And I'm like, that's cute. Thanks, man. But just that, being open to your actors. I don't think he's not super strict with the script either, which helps. I mean, obviously you got to hit points, but lets you roll with it, lets you adapt things.
He's just so caring about the story and the characters and us that I just loved it. But what were you saying?
He could like adapt. I feel like he had a good idea of what really needed to be there, what was really important to the film. And because every movie is gonna have like 100 things go wrong. It's gonna be like, hey, this didn't happen, and you're like, okay, so I've seen people like just let that kind of like destroy it, where they just get like too hyper fixated on it. Or I've seen like creative differences where somebody just kind of shuts down because everybody's kind of giving them feedback and they're not liking it. It just kind of, you hit this weird point of like, you're not sure what you're doing anymore because you had your old notes versus your new notes. And it's like, well, that's whose film is it? Who am I listening to?
Moral of the story, we love Nick.
Moral of the story, make more movies, Nick, and put us in. Other than Nick, who else did you form some tight bonds with
during Memory Lane?
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, okay. One of my favorite things about being on set in general, is watching people work. Like, I think it's so incredible. I am not skilled in technical like elements at all. I can't imagine doing half the work everyone does. So I love just observing, like it's so cool. Like, there was a point where they were doing a scene with you. I think it was the like cleaning up the party or whatever, where I'm not there. So I was in the bedroom and I was with the person editing, and I was like, damn, like that's just so cool watching them work right now. And I also, one of my favorite parts about being on set is like lunch breaks and just little breaks. You know what I'm talking about, where you get to talk to everyone, because like you and I got to talk a lot, but like everyone else is like doing stuff on the moments where we have breaks. So like lunch breaks, getting to talk to everyone, like I kind of said before we started this conversation, where it's like I love Carson and Cross, the people that did sound. I love talking to Tally and Madi, the producer. I just love getting to know everyone, really. But
Yeah.
wow, what about you? Did you make any connections?
Oh, me and JP talked about conservation work, and that was really cool. And then me and Cross talked about the soundtrack to Avatar, the like James Cameron Avatar music, the Blue People. So it was cool just getting to like nerd out with him on sound and soundtrack stuff. That was really, really fun and cool.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen him since. He's out there somewhere.
Fun fact, I actually saw him this summer just by coincidence.
Really?
Yeah, I went to a casino with my father for the first time because I've never been. And my dad took me, and then all of a sudden somebody taps me on the shoulder, and it's Cross, and he's like, "Oh,
"What's up?"
And he was there with his grandpa, and we talked a little bit about it. And we talked a little bit about memory lane as well. He was talking to my dad about it. It was kind of fun. But yeah,
That's actually really cool.
with memory lane, how did it feel watching yourself like at the film festival?
Okay, film festival. I can talk about the film festival. Man, I mean, I don't want to be pessimistic. I almost never like any of the stuff I do in the acting stuff. Okay, it's kind of nice that you nod. Maybe you feel the same way. I think like there's like a total of like probably 75 seconds of that film that I think I did good on, and I try not to be so critical because it's what. Actually, quick tangent. Do you think when I act surprised, do you think I open my eyes too much? Does that look jarring?
No, I have never.
You don't think so? Have you noticed it? My mom, that's like all every time she watches one of these things now, that just takes her out of it. She says like, you open your eyes way too much. Like, that's not what people do when they get surprised. Why are you opening your eyes so much? And I'm like, I'm literally not even thinking about it.
No,
Okay, well, that's good. I just, while we were on it, I was like, no, the film festival was freaking awesome. It was a lot of fun with my friends. And then, okay, watching Bloom was cool because obviously that was Nick's film too. And then watching our film, I'm like kind of like squirming in my chair, like, yeah, that part looks good. That part, whatever. I don't like that part, but that part looks good. Just being like critical of my performance. But then, it was cool to see it all put together. It was really cool to see it all put together and actually like finished. That was super, super cool. But the most like exciting part was the awards at the end. Nick getting the best director was super, super cool.
And the winner goes for Nick here at Super.
Okay, and then me and you both getting nominated for best actor was super freaking cool.
Kelsey Brown from Memory Lane. Kaleb Deatherage from Memory Lane.
Me and my friends were all like, we're like screaming and cheering or whatever. That was super cool. And then afterwards, I don't know if this happened to you. People were actually being like, oh, hey man, good job in the movie. People like talking to me about it. I'm like, oh, thanks. Cool. Yeah, no problem, man. Thanks for talking to me about it. But that was super cool. And that was like, I was trying to go down and find Nick and like congratulate him.
For me, Memory Lane was only my third film. And I never watched myself on screen before. So that was like a first for me. That was crazy. It's almost a little like sentimental because I was like, whoa. But I agree. I hate watching myself perform, and like I don't enjoy doing it. So because as people, we like to criticize ourselves. So it's hard to like take out that view of it where it's like, ugh, that's me acting. That's gross. But while I didn't enjoy watching myself perform, I enjoyed watching the film because there was something about like us being there like the entire time while it's going on, like all the work that goes on after, where I was like, damn, like a movie was made, and that's awesome. Yeah, I loved watching other people's work. It just felt like a very like welcoming environment that we were in for the film festival.
Yeah, everyone was just nice. Everyone was just excited to be there, and it was really fun and cool.
Yeah. So it was cool. It was cool to watch the thing put together.
Yeah, that was like the first time I'd ever actually seen anything I was in on like a screen bigger than like, like a television screen. I don't think I'd ever actually
Really?
seen it I don't think I'd ever seen anything about in a venue before.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was cool. It was really weird being like recognized by people I didn't know. And
yeah.
then
I left
it was
pretty soon
fun.
after, so I didn't really get to say bye. I saw Nick when I got there, and I was talking, and it was actually really cute. I don't know if you saw him before or after, but he had like little momentums from both films, from Bloom and Memory
Oh,
Lane.
did he? I didn't see
Yeah, he
that.
had like because obviously you watched Bloom, like a little origami piece, and
That's
then
really cute.
he also had a piece of the crown, and it was just really sweet.
That's really cute.
Yeah, it
No,
was.
man. Talk about rock stars. Nick was the freaking rock star. He was like, everyone was trying to get pictures with him. He's like, didn't have
I
enough hands for all
know.
of his awards. It was so funny.
I will say something that I didn't bring up. Another moment that I love from the film is the convenience store scene. The head, our chest hitting our heads together, like it's so funny. And like Nick being like, can you just hit each other just like a little bit harder?
You're like, yeah, we could do that. That was funny. I forgot about that.
Yeah, ultimately it was a
Cute.
pleasure to work on. So it's been nice getting to
No, it was
talk
great.
about it.
No, that was super, super cool. It was good to catch up on it. I think the last scene is really cute too.
Yeah.
The drop off, like it was funny because we're like laughing or whatever. And then it's kind of just like it felt like peaceful. Even at the time, it felt like peaceful. I walk away and then I turn around, I come back. It's funny because like they told me what to do, but I didn't know how to do it. So I just ran over and you like weren't looking at me. You were just like, oh, I'm starting the car. I'm
I
starting
was
the car.
playing
I'm
the
gonna
music.
drive. I know. I know. You're like not looking at me. So I like knock on the window and you're like, I'm like, hey. Like I'm back, hey. But then it works because it's like natural. It was a cool film to be a part of, especially knowing the behind the scenes, how it like applies to Nick's life and how it applies to everybody's life. Like that idea of finding closure. It's really cute. It was good working with you. I'm glad Nick had us both on. It was fun making another movie with him. So I'm just waiting for Memory Lane 2, I guess.
Memory Lane 2, yeah. They meet up 10 years later.
We could do it. We can get it where they somehow they get back together. It works out. Everyone can be happy.
I guess some final words to end the discussion would be Gatorade, make a Memory Lane 2, and yeah, our devices died and filled up a storage a couple times, but we had a really good conversation, so it was worth it.
Yeah, I don't think any of my audio is usable, but that's all right. It's not really all right. I'm pretty upset about it. That's okay.
Period.